And when you have people come to you as a practitioner, just give us a little tidbit about what would happen when somebody would come to you, and how would you help them, assist them to go back in the Akashic Records as a practitioner?
What I do with clients is people come to their own records. That is 100% what happens for me. I don't market it, I don't advertise it, because it feels funky to me, like I'm gonna market the divine. No. The divine is all of us. We're all the same, and we all are reflections of divine source.
Embark on a captivating journey into the intriguing world of human consciousness with Douglas James Cottrell, PhD. Douglas and our diverse range of guests delve deep into the mind, illuminating our limitless potential. Engage in profound dialogues that pave the way for personal growth and uncover the hidden power of your consciousness. Your journey towards personal growth continues here. Now, here is Douglas.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I have a wonderful guest here today. Mary Madeiras is here, and she has a fascinating story to tell us. She is an Akashic Records practitioner. She is at the advanced level, and boy, has she got some information for you. Mary, welcome to the show. It's great to see you today. What's in the Akashic? Tell us a little bit about yourself today.
Okay, thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, I always love the opportunity to share. I like to call it the juice of this amazing resource that we all have, that I've been honored to have tapped into and to be working in. It's very exciting, and it's life-changing in a really good way. Actually, it changes our lives in a way that is more of who we are. I'll just say that. So in a nutshell, I began my career. I'll start with my career working in television and at the television networks, NBC, ABC, CBS. And I worked my way up to director, television director. And then I was working on soap operas on the East and West Coast.
Wow.
And so I had a long career, many years doing that, news and sports and soap operas. And then it began to shift. I'll just say that. What started to happen was, now I know, a gift, which was that the soaps began to go off the air, as many of your viewers and listeners will know. When I began, there were 15 soap operas, and there are now only 4. And I began around 1980 when I started working. Anyways, in that arena. Anyway, so as they were dwindling and going off the air, I was rethinking my life, I would say, and pondering, wondering, what do I do? And I certainly could have, as a director, moved into nighttime television, things like that. But then a really remarkable thing happened. I was brought to the awareness of the Akashic Records through a book that was actually sitting on a shelf above my head in a metaphysical bookstore. I was always following metaphysical things. I'll say that, the Eckhart Tolles and the usual suspects in metaphysical and spiritual world, in our world. And so, there I was, and there was this book, and it was How to Read Your Akashic Records. Now, I had also, before that point, had a psychic reading with a wonderful woman out here in California, and she saw a being over my shoulder and said, "There's this dude." She called him a dude over your shoulder, and he oversees your Akashic Records. And I asked her, "What are those?" I didn't know, and she said, "I don't know, but that's what he says he does."
My goodness!
He's with you your whole life, and he's still with you. There was also more to that being who's with me. It was something about him translating sacred geometry into creative ideas that come into me. And my whole life, when I would have creative ideas, I always felt in my work, they were not coming from inside me this way, they were coming in. And so that just validated that, right? And then it was the second sign was the book on the shelf. And so
that
I
you
read the
already
book.
had purchased and put on the shelf years before or time before, sitting there
Oh,
buried
right.
treasure. Yeah, yeah. I love it.
Right. So I knew, I just knew it. I was like, okay, I need to pay attention to this. And I did. And I was so happy I did, because it was How to Read Your Akashic Records by Linda Howe, who I wound up studying with. She has the Center for Akashic Studies out of Chicago. And I did a series of classes. And it was I came home. It felt like I was home. And I knew it. I was hearing blocks of thought that were not my own, that were amazing ideas and information about not just the issues we deal with as humans, but about the planet itself and humanity itself. And of course, it also involves the past lives, because we can access our past lives, as you know. And so this world opened up. And what's interesting, and I think this is a good thing for everyone to hear, is that many of us have grown up thinking no pain, no gain. Like if something's easy, then it can't be real, or you can't do your career, have a career at it. And that's farthest from true. It was so easy for me to access the records that I questioned it. I had doubt, like, is this real? And so that was my beginnings with working in the records. I started doing this in 2008. And the more and more that I opened the records mostly of myself, and worked on my own past wounds and my own past lives, because as a practitioner, we don't want to come to the table and be working with someone if we've got some, creepy crawler things from our past. We have to really be clear and stay grounded. So I took that very seriously. So that's, and now what's happened is the entertainment aspect of my life has come back into and blended in with the records, in the way that the records inform how I write. I'm now writing, and I'm writing screenplays and a series. I have a teen series that is out there now being pitched, and that opened up. And the reason it opened up for me is because that is part of my soul's journey. My soul's choice was to use the power of storytelling, I'll say, in the way that I'm doing it now. I just hadn't come to it. Once I started opening my records reflected back to me what I'm here for. It's a remembering. And when we're in our records and we access that information, we just get ahas over and over again. It's just resonation. It's like, yes, right. And so that's how then I became a writer, and I'm still a director. So my work has blossomed, I'll say, from the inside out, from my work in the records. It's a pretty amazing tool.
Well, having some experience in the same areas, I'm listening to you as I have many people who have come to their destiny, if I can call it that. It is that first they develop one career in the world intellectually, and your career is remarkable. You have several awards, and people can go to your website, and I'll get you to mention that in a minute, and they can find out just how successful you were in your life. And at those times, the competition was fierce. I'm sure you were young and creative and all those things that gave you that drive, but you had to have the smarts, the talent, the ability, and creativity. And then that part in everybody's life, it's kind of like, as you said, there was a change coming up, and you said, what am I going to do now? And then you have one experience that changes your whole life. And while you're going through that experience, you don't know it until you look back. And that person's saying, there's a dude over your shoulder, and he's saying some word, term, something that you've never heard of before. And even this intuitive lady said she didn't quite know what that was herself. She ought to have known, in my opinion, but that's beside the point. She's in the field. However, she says, this is whispering in your ear, talking to you, thoughts telepathically coming in, all those creative urgings I'm sure you had when you were in your high profile and pressure cooker type job, that now you're getting answers to where they came from. And then this whole idea, this is the second part, is that you develop this other career, other interest, and then you blend the two.
Yes.
That when I've seen this over and over and over again in people's careers, including my own, developing one in printing and pressing and newspapers, and then writing books myself, and what I do now as a counselor. But it was something happened. My life changed. Your life changed, and it's going on, and we're kind of like, if you might agree, going through the motions, like we're in la la land until we get through the transition point from here to there. Yeah. But then you took it one step further and you became and please explain this to my friends all over the world who are listening to this, because this is an international program. You came to be an Akashic Records practitioner, helping people. And I think I'll add to what you said is that I found that when I realized there were these heavens or these dimensions above, I said, there really is a God out there. I mean, I got it. And then from that moment on, there was no question. There was no, there were some, wonderings about my passing, but there was no doubt that my soul was going to live forever. And all those little blanks were filled in for me. Now, this is all about you, not me, but I think we've shared some of those steps. And when you have people come to you as a practitioner, just give us a little tidbit about what would happen when somebody would come to you, and how would you help them, assist them to go back in the Akashic Records as a practitioner, as an advanced practitioner?
Well, the first thing I want to say is the records are available to anyone. They've been around since the beginning of time. And so anyone can access their records. It's funny to me, like giggly funny, that, we get accreditations in the spiritual community. I always find it just makes me giggle. Because what does that really mean? Well, what it really means for me is that I spent time with someone who teaches about the records, lots of time. And I spent lots of time opening my own records within that sort of, they weren't classes, they're sort of like workshops over and over and over again. And so I was basically learning how to use the Akashic Records in my own personal life as a tool for life. And, it helps to have somebody that has done it already for many, many, many years. And anyway, so that's, accreditation. What does that really mean? It just means I did it over and over and over and over again under someone who's done it more times than I have, as a mentor. And so I just wanted to make that clear. So anyone, just like I did, they don't have to get hit in the head with a book. They can just go get a book on the Akashic Records and tap in. What I do with clients is people come to their own records. That is 100% what happens for me. I don't market it. I don't advertise it because it feels funky to me. Like I'm going to market the divine. No, the divine is all of us. We're all the same, and we all are reflections of divine source. So it's fascinating to me who winds up coming to me for records readings. And what usually happens is, all I do is I use a sacred prayer with the permission of the client to open up their records. And they're usually coming for clarity. They're stuck. It's really, 100% of the time, they don't even realize that they're simply coming to remember who they are and why they're here. That's really it. Wow. And the beauty in my book of the records is that when we're in our Akashic Records, it is a direct reflection, mirror image of each individual soul's journey through lifetime after lifetime. And so when we open the records, there are these quantum imprints that are already there from right now. You and I speaking here is creating a quantum imprint in your records and my records right now. I mean, that's in the now and the now and the now. It's really cool. And so at a later time, we can access that. We can actually, each one of us can open our own records and draw from that. The value of having a mirror image of who we really are, and the power of it is that we tend as human beings, as humanity, to forget who we are. We have a lot of challenges on this planet. It's dense. There's collective ego conscious, there's shadow stuff. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and we can get lost and we can get pulled in directions. It's all normal. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just sort of part of the dance, I think, of this planet. And so what's great about the records is if I open somebody's records, they might come to the records saying, I'm about to create a new brand, or I'm going to move, to Timbuktu, and I don't know if this is right. Well, the records are not a divining tool. They're not going to swoop in and go like, no, don't do that, because then I wouldn't be in the records. Records are pure choice. We always have choice. But what the records will do is, through dialoguing with the client, with my client, the divine moves on the spoken word. So I hear the most when my client is speaking, and they could be speaking about anything. It doesn't matter. They could be complaining about something. It doesn't matter. And so they're going, and I'm hearing blocks of thought. And what I'll do is, quite often, I'll just be writing down phrases, words, and then I'll get a gentle nudge to go back to those when the person has finished speaking. And then it just opens up this portal of a deep remembering of that person about who they are. And out of that remembering comes, unstuckness, new choices that feel better. It's just feel good, feel good, feel good, feel good, feel good, feel good. Most people don't even want to end the readings. I have that happen quite often. And I have to have an awareness of managing time in the records, because it can be tiring. And I'm sure you've gone through this. It can be tiring after a while, because it's another dimension of consciousness, and it's very subtle. It's not like I'm taken over by something and I'm not here. I'm just flowing this information and I'm still present. And I like to say that the records themselves, the divine realm, uses my way of speaking, my heart, my soul, as my soul committing to this, and even my sense of humor at times. It uses all of that, as it probably does through psychics. One psychic is going to handle things differently than another one, or they'll sound differently. So that's what happens. And as the flow begins to happen with a client, more and more comes out of them. And it's almost like this rebirthing of who they are. And it's always joyful. It's lovely. It's beautiful. I can feel them expand. And at the same time, I'm expanding, because I'm flowing divine source.
Right.
Who gets to do this? I'm so honored to be doing this work. I don't call it work. Yeah.
Apparently special people with special talents. And you were drawn to this, as you just said a little while ago. And I found, and I think I sort of heard the hints in what you're saying, is that people come to you with some reason, purpose that isn't probably where they end up, but they come there because they're looking, and they know you have the doorway that they can walk through. You have the window they can look through.
Yes.
So as a conduit between between the heaven and the earth kind of thing, you have a special platform, a special place, but you're already prepared for that. Mm-hmm. As you just said, you get tired because you're expending, as people who do this in the field, I'm sure, you're expending enormous energy in some sort of mental, spiritual conduit that it doesn't. You're not like working on a chain gang, breaking sledgehammer and rock, but you're exerting that much energy to get this connection. And I'm sure when people do that, when they find out about themselves, the one thing I can add to what you said is that the reason they continue asking is because all of a sudden they've hit that sweet spot of truth.
Yes.
They know beyond knowing that what you're talking about as you're opening up their records and they're reading their Akashic records, they're on the tree of life and they're whatever other terms we want to put on it, they know. And so
it is a deep knowing. Yes, it's recognizable. It's palpable, actually. The other thing that I want to mention is that when I say the sacred prayer that I say to open this channel, we'll say, in an individual's records to their records, I'm accessing what I've learned, and I sense, I can feel them, is an entourage of beings. They're actually light energies, they're not beings. And the light energies oversee everybody's records, and they're known as masters, teachers, and loved ones. And so it's nice to know that, like, our records are not something floating around out there and dark energies can get in and put a bad imprint on them. Not possible. It just cannot happen because it's such a sacred realm. It's a sacred space. And so I'm calling forth those masters, teachers, and loved ones using the person's name, their legal name, because that's how they're known in the ethers, let's say, I guess,
sure.
And on our world. And so by calling their name out in prayer and summoning basically these light energies, they're there. And part of that entourage, the loved ones, can be or are those that the person whose records we're in, those loved ones of that person who are on the other side now, who have passed over. And it can be anything where love was exchanged, right? Any love person, friends, family, it doesn't need to be just family or close relationships. They're on the other side and they're holding the integrity of that person's Akash. And it's really beautiful because often I will feel an energy. I'll feel a feminine or masculine energy, and it'll come across for me as, a very outspoken energy or someone, or it might be they're saying, I'll hear there's a feminine energy saying, get on with it. Let's get going. I'm here to help you. And that person, like all the time, they'll say, oh my God, that's my grandmother. That's how she would speak or whatever. So that happens. It's not like a psychic reading where it's a one-on-one dialogue with that individual on the other side or the entity. It's more they're holding that purpose of the integrity of that person's records. They're standing and holding that sacred space along with the masters, teachers, and the masters and the teachers. So it's this entourage, and I can feel like that there's something around me. It's not ghosts or being. I don't feel beings. It's energy. I can feel an energy holding the purpose of the reading along with me. Like I feel like I have guidance, and of course I have my own. I've got that genie guy we know. But yeah. I also can feel others. I can feel others show up and energies that join in, and then it just flows. Also, part of the prayer that I love, my favorite part, is that I'm asking that my any form of ego conscious or any form of ego is gone. So I've actually even tested that, interestingly, in records readings, where if someone said something really like horrible about something they've done, let's say, I will try, and I'm hearing, but I'll also search for my own opinion about it, and I can't find one. That's how I know I'm in the records, because there's judgment in the records. It's really cool. So I tried one day. I was like, I should have an opinion about this, was my thought. And I heard no. And I heard more divine stuff coming through. And so that, prayer is so powerful, isn't it? It really is.
Well, I believe in investigating a lot of spiritual things, there's a great prayer about ask and you shall receive.
Yes.
And everybody goes, oh, that's great. And I say, just a minute. There are two other conditions. Right. Ask and you shall receive. seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be open unto you, which means you have to go out and find out all the information, and you have to knock on every door you can possibly find to make what you're asking come true. We're talking to Mary Madeiras. We'll be right back after this short break.
Here's a little book packed with over 350 simple inspirational messages that you can use on a daily basis. It's called Gems of Wisdom. If you follow these simple steps to reach the divine within, you'll change not only yourself, but the world. A must-read for the spiritual-minded person. Available now at douglasjamescottrell.com. Gems of Wisdom. Welcome back to the interview. Once again, here is Douglas James Cottrell.
We were just talking before the break about you having this group of comforting beings, or light beings, I guess, as you light energy, mm-hmm. And you can feel them and you can hear words given to them that are directly related to the person whom you're helping. That's amazing. Just as you casually said that, I want the viewers and listeners to realize that is an amazing talent and ability. And as you mentioned, that there can't be an adulteration, there's no passwords or security problems on the other side, because truth is truth, and there's no room. Light is light. When light's around, where is darkness? Gone, right? So there can't be any interference. So as you were sitting there and learning about these higher dimensions, and I'm sure every time you had a client, it was a new experience for yourself, and you learned something a little more about this vast place that we call the Akashic fields or records out there. Tell us how you made the transition from counselor to author. What are you writing about?
Great question. What happened for me was, I don't know how many years ago, I would be opening my own records, sitting at my computer, and I would just type my concerns, questions, like anyone else would speak them in a client situation. And not only were answers or clarifications and affirmations coming through about my specific questions, such as, I can give an example. I was manifesting petty tyrant, I'll call them that, bosses in men and women for a large part of my career in television. And television is already difficult, especially live news. And I had petty tyrants. So that was one question. I was like, why? What is this about, right? When I would receive, and I'd hear and then type out blocks of thought, as I do, same thing as with clients, and then they would impart more. It would turn into, and in humanity, there is this blah, 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 blah. And on the planet, blah, 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 blah. And quantum conversations that were further than, it's almost like my question about myself triggered this other information that was flowing through. I imagine that Neil Donald Walsh, I imagine that probably happened for him, because he would ask questions and then God, source, would just flow through. And so that started to happen. And then there was one of my readings, my records imparted that they said, or I heard, Mary, your records show you writing. And at that point, I wasn't writing. Well, I didn't think I was, but I wasn't writing. I wasn't consciously writing. And so I was opposing my own records. I wrote back, no, I'm not. I'm a director. Which is like, okay.
That little ego mind gets in the way.
Yeah, really. Like, no, I'm not. I'm telling my own Akashic realm that is the reflection of me. But anyway, that's the human part of me that I think makes people feel so comfortable when they work with me, because I'm a very rooted in earth person at the same time that I'm doing all this other stuff. So I kept going, no. And then what they said was, this was a specific reading that I remembered, and I have it written. And what I heard was, no, you are a writer, Mary, and you're going to be writing books. And they imparted to me 3 books that I would be writing on the Akashic records. And so I just, let that go, and I didn't resist it. And I remembered walking around in my life kind of going, well, I'm not a writer. And so it's a word that I was going to say in response to what you just said earlier, right before you asked this question, is that, that asking and receiving, it's important to surrender. We this is the thing that I think trips so many people up, including myself through my life. Surrendering doesn't mean letting go of the dream or letting go of the thing that you want or whatever. It just means that, we're asking out there, whether it's archangels, God, source, whoever it is, or our loved ones on the other side, we ask, but then we've got to surrender for it to happen. In other words, we can't keep holding on to all the reasons and ways it's going to happen. So I hadn't surrendered yet. And I remembered just this sense that I had at some point, not too long after that reading. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to let go. I'm just going to just let go of it all and not think about it, whatever. And I was offered an opportunity and paid to write a screenplay. So it just came and landed. And it's
fantastic.
How it works. It's when we surrender. And so and then I opened my records and about this, and my records said, we're with you. We are you. We are always with you. We are the divine aspect of you. You are us. We are you. So you can call out. You can open your records while you're writing. I thought, oh my gosh, that's great. And I did. And so I also heard, you already know this. And then I remembered that when I was directing, I had taken, I think, 4 times in New York and Los Angeles weekend workshops with the #1 guru screenwriting guy, Robert McKee. And I forgot I had done that because I thought I was doing that to become a better director. It's so interesting when
there's that cosmos again.
Exactly. And so when the record said, you already know this, because I thought, format and this and that, and act 1, 2, 3, what do I do? And then I remembered, and I went into my books, and I had Robert McKee's books on story and everything. And I was like, I already knew it. And so it flowed. And so there's an example of, I'm getting chills as I speak this, when we access our records that show us, they're just reminding us of the choices that we already made to come and incarnate at this time, okay? Using past lives as well. But if we just listen, we're listening to ourselves. So it's not some, genie in a bottle popping out. Nothing against my genie guy, but it's not some big thing out there that's saying you must this and that. That's the old paradigm of religions and things like that. It's not really what life is about. Life is about we have aspects of ourselves that are in each other and in the planet and out there. And so in multi dimensions, and we can just pull in reflections of ourselves in so many ways. And the Akashic Records is a really cool way to do it, because it really is that imprint of our soul, lifetime after lifetime. And another really trippy, fun thing, I'm saying trippy because it's just so fun, is that we know that since science and spirituality have come together, they're shaking hands now. So we know Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about this, but we know that the energy never dies. We know that. It's physics now, we know. Quantum physics is huge. And so energy doesn't die. We also know that DNA is energy. Mm-hmm. So what the records bring in very often with clients of mine is, if we look at a past life, they don't care about time because there is no time. So I don't get 1800s and long dresses. I don't get that. I get the essence of that soul in a particular time that's not now, we'll say. We have to use our human words to try and impart thoughts. But anyway, what we can do is the DNA of every lifetime that we've lived is still with us, the energy of the DNA. So we have the opportunity. A lot of people get tripped. They're just sort of, they have question marks about this. They're like, really? For example, if somebody had a past life and there was no cancer, some past life there was no disease, let's just say. In this lifetime, if they get a diagnosis of cancer, their DNA holds the energy of no cancer. It didn't die. It's still there. And so there's an opportunity for us to just intend forward that energy of no cancer, and there will be no cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the kinds of jewels that are coming in from the Akashic realm that are beyond the day-to-day questions of, what do I do? Do I get married? Do I do this or that? It's just this broader huge amount of information that's flowing in. And that is why I've said yes to writing the book. And so that's how I got into that. And the second book is to open the records of sacred sites around the world, because I can open the records of spaces, addresses, homes, couples. I've done work with couples, sacred sites, obviously. I opened the records of the sun one day, and that's in my book. Wow. Yeah. Wow. And the sun spoke through its own Akash, its own imprint. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more fun. And we can do pets too. We can open the records of our pets.
Oh, that's touching a lot of people's hearts right now. You know, what you're saying is, and I would reminisce myself a little bit and say, people, if they look within, they can see the easy way. Well, we're all outside trying to do the hard way. Yes. And as you were talking about, you had taken workshops on being a playwright, and you had forgotten about it. That was kind of the blueprint of your life, you know, going through, being prepared. The same as the book was on the shelf above your head or whatever. It was always there. And so this is the one thing I find in my own life. I've been an impatient man all my life. And I asked my friend, my mentor, Ross Peterson, who was called The New Edgar Casey, and there was a book by Alan Spraggett written about him years ago in 1973 or 4. And I asked him one day, so what's my life lesson? And he said, in his way, you will learn. No, I said, what's my lesson? He said, patience. And I said, oh, patience. Oh, wow. You know, that's not a hard one. And then I said, I was 24 years old, how long will it take? I'm supposed to learn patience. How long will it take? So, and then he responded, he said, look, you are going to learn patience. And now at my age, I understand. I don't get something done today, I'll get a little bit tomorrow, a little bit tomorrow. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But the easy way is there. And by asking in prayer, which I was really impressed to hear you say, I concur because I do it myself. You have to pray first. You have to ask. That's the only condition of getting to wherever you want to go. Because when you pray, your free will and free choice, if you agree, you're allowed to open that door and pursue that memory. And, you know, yes. I'm going to ask you, people are afraid, maybe looking back and say, did I do something bad in another lifetime? Was I like a meanie? Did I chop heads off? Was I a brute? All people have those fears, and all people have those experiences. But when people come to you with some trepidation and you say, look, just follow the easy way, that person, that being, that experience in the past, if you elaborate on this, makes you the better person today, because now you're not that meanie. But in the field, if you're something on this side, then you're going to be the opposite on the other side in a different time. What do you think?
I think that happens. I think that's true. I also have experienced other truths by looking at these ideas through the lens of the Akashic realm. When we look at past lives, again, this is my experience with the records, but it continually happens in this way. I'm shown past lives, and it may be, you know, everyone thinks they were Cleopatra and all of that. Maybe they were, maybe we all were.
I've never met Cleopatra. I've always met the person who used to work for her, shining the furniture or something. That's the person I see.
Shining the furniture. And so, yeah, so those kinds of things do come up with past lives. What is great is the looking through, when we look through the lens at those past lives, and let's say we were a murderer. I mean, I haven't had that yet, experience yet. There is something else that happens. It's not that in this lifetime, again, this is the records, this is my understanding. It's not necessarily that we come in another time to make it okay, or we always come with the opposite, to make up for it. The records have even said there's no such thing as karma. There's only choice, over and over again. And so looking at those past lives through this lens presents those time periods, those past lives, as an opportunity. They become assets. They become an asset, actually. So, for example, if somebody was a murderer, or maybe they, I don't want to use whatever, but if they were doing something they weren't happy about now, we look through the lens of the records at that lifetime, and we sort of like kind of chew on it. Abraham Hicks uses that word. We chew on it. We look at it as that lifetime, what was going on in that lifetime, not to justify it, but to understand the energy. We can actually mine the energy of that particular lifetime. That's not the same as if you did something awful, then you're going to bring it forward and it's okay to do it again. No, the records, of course, do not condone that. That's not divine. However, there's an energy to even what we perceive as bad things, and we perceive them as bad. We say that's right and that's wrong, and the records say there is no right and wrong. There's just choice. There's no judgment. And so that what we want to do is lift, if a lifetime like that does come up in a reading, and that person, as you said, is uncomfortable about it, the discomfort transmutes into light. And there are things, I have to say, that happen that I can't tell you why they happen. It's the power of divine, where something transmutes and it just becomes something else. And I watch it happen and experience it. And when I close that person's records, I'm like, I don't know, except I know more than ever that there is divine source, and it is extremely powerful.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly right. The idea is that you learn from that experience, and you're here to experience all experiences.
Yes.
Good, bad, and better. I'm not going to say ugly.
No, not ugly. In the new you way.
Yes.
Why you're here at this time. So they become, I'm always shown like a toolkit, those past lives that we thought were awful, and we don't want to think about them. We think we have to get rid of them. The records go, no. That's part of your soul. And so let's bring it forward through the lens of divine and light. And it becomes it turns into an asset. It can involve discernment. If somebody did bad things, then they're going to discern. Maybe they have a heightened discernment about protecting others. They can see before others are hurt, and that they wouldn't have that asset if they hadn't experienced, and had that lifetime of whatever happened to them or whatever they did. So it's just freeing. It's so freeing.
That's a really good explanation. And, people as they look at their life and they come to see you and they read your books. You've got a book out there or two. What gets out there?
My first book is not complete yet. And the second one about the sacred sites, I may have my first sacred site picked, and it may be Atlantis in the Azores. And so
you're going to go there? You're going to do some.
Interesting. My father's family was from the Azores. Wow. And I've met a few people who are doing some work there, and I kind of heard, Mary, make this be your first spot, especially because your lineage, the energy of your lineage is there, and speak to Atlantis. And I went into my records about that, and it was, I heard, get on a boat and stay overnight on a boat around those islands and just continually open the records, and the Atlantis will speak. So, I mean, that's what I heard. So Yeah, so that's planning. I have to work on that. And the first book, which is really like the uh, let beautiful things for humanity, about all the things we struggle with. What's so interesting is when I reread anything that came through, it is as if it's right now. It's timeless. The information that comes through is absolutely timeless. I just heard a reading that I did, and it was something I was working through myself, and I was speaking it out loud, and I just happened to find it on my computer yesterday, and it was as if I was hearing from the records right that second, right now, and it was so appropriate in the moment. The records change, and so we know that divine moves on the spoken word, and we also know that sacred tomes, when we hold sacred tomes or when we open them up, something happens. It's undeniable. And what is that? It's the energy, that quantum divine energy is still vibrating. It's still there. And so my book is continually expanding, I'll say. And so I think my challenge will be when it's over. Like, is it over? No, I guess it'll always be.
Well, when it's right, it's going to, like the book above your head that showed you the way, it's going to manifest right in front of you.
Yeah, I'm really nearly finished. I have all the chapters. I just have to go back through it, open my records, and just see what happens. I'll just say that. It's a journey, but fun.
Oh, amazing. And again, you've had an amazing career. You've worked at the highest level of television, and I'm going to say film and movies and theater and all kinds of things. I'm not sure exactly where your career has been, but you've been around those people. And I'm just, before I ask you about how people can get in contact with you on your website and things, you mentioned about the mini tyrants on the workplace. And, somebody I interviewed a while ago had done a whole study on such things and narcissists and the different types of people in the workplace. So you were in a pressure cooker. It was at the highest level of the business, big money, big names, big people, big pressure. How did you handle that?
Well, quite differently than I would now. And I bet we all could say that. It confused me because I love people. And I think I had a harder time with the petty tyrant bosses who were really mean to those around me. Because as a director, especially when I was working at CBS News, there's 150 monitors sitting in front of the director, and that every one of those monitors is being used for a 2-hour live broadcast. And then there's just screaming people behind you. If anyone just stepped into that, they would just go, that can't be. And so the way that I always worked was as a director that we were all the same. And that kind of annoyed those tyrants that were the Hitlers behind me. And so they didn't like that. Even on the soap operas, I honored actors, I honored the crew, everybody, we were equal. I came onto a set and it was we, not I'm this, that. Also, to add to this mix is that I was very often, I was the second woman ever to direct at CBS News.
That's where I was going with this. Yes.
Yeah. And so, there's an Apple TV show that's in its 3rd season now, The Morning Show. That's one of the programs I worked on. And whoever is writing that for that series, they got it. Now they're talking about they're talking about all the games that go on behind the scenes. And I was immersed in that, and that show has it right. It is like everyone should watch that show. I think it's called The Morning Show. And I think Jennifer Aniston won Golden Globe for her performance in that, and Reese Witherspoon too. But anyway, how did I deal with it? Well, I came from a resilient family. And I also want to say that my manifesting petty tyrants, I learned by working in my records, it was a subconscious pattern that I had. I really believe in, I value subconscious patterns that Bruce Lipton addresses a lot, talks a lot about that. And the subconscious, we know, forms itself from third trimester to like 7 years old ish. And all it is a recording device. It records our environment, our attitudes, how people treat us, what we're hearing, everything. And so then it runs 96% of our lives, our behavior from the background. And so when I discovered that, it freed me up, because I thought, oh, no wonder. Well, I had a brother who was he was a bully. I have 3 older brothers. The 2 of them were fine as brothers. I'll say normal, I guess. One really tortured me. And I had a bully father. I had an Archie Bunker father. And so, who hated everyone, and he hated cultures. And I didn't understand it. I don't have that in me. So I would argue with him a lot, and so I came out of that. So those were the things I was hearing, probably even in my mother's womb. You're supposed to hate. You're supposed to this. You're not worth anything. My family thought I was pie in the sky, airy fairy. I was the one. And when I would say, I think everyone's really good, and they'd go, you'll learn. You don't know. So I had all of that around me. It's not surprising that I would have manifested over and over, my brother, basically, someone that was always, at me about something, or at the work that I was doing. I always had something. Now it goes with the territory, because you have to have resilience. And I learned resilience. So the gift of my family was the resilience that I came away with. And they were Irish Catholic on one side, and then the Portuguese on the other. And so, it was, you buck up, you get through it. When we got hurt, my mother would say, just don't think about it. Think about something else. Well, now, actually, I think that was very wise. Yeah. Don't focus on the negative, right? So it was my resilience that got me through. And also, I majored in music in college. And so I had a knack for having a peripheral vision of things. So I could look at 1,000 monitors, and it wouldn't make me nervous, because I'd know and prioritize. I'd be able to do that. So it's not surprising that I chose that arena to play in the beginning of my life, my career, because I was used to the energies of it. So it wasn't until also when I discovered Abraham Hicks. I remembered Abraham Hicks saying in one of the workshops, of their things, the universe only knows yes. It doesn't know no. So if you keep screaming no at something, it's going to give you more of it, because it's seeing the energy going towards that thing, and it's just going to give you more of it. And that really freed me up with the petty tyrant period. I mean, really, I had a slew of them. Wow. When I look back, you couldn't pay me to go back there. And when I realized that, I realized I was going home every night, upset, mad at that person, or they would be rude to the crew and make people who had worked there for 30 years feel bad. And that really bothered me, because I believed in everybody who was putting their best into the broadcast. And I fought for everyone. And that was me. I always did that. That was the rebel that came from my family and my lineage. So I had all these components that were good, but then I was screaming no at the petty tyrants. And I just kept getting more and more, to the point where one of my bosses, I was sure, was not going to renew my contract as a director. I was on a soap opera then. And I went to my agent, he had the same agent. And I said to my agent, Jim, I know he's going to fire me. He hates me. And he goes, what, are you kidding? He loves your work. I got more of it. I actually wanted him to let me go. And I find out that he loved my work. Yeah. So it was Abraham Hicks in action, or the law of attraction in action, I should say.
Well, I could see that, the universe was preparing you with a family that was diverse,
yes.
Situations you were in, and then the workplace, and here you are. But, you had to do that. And that was your choice, your plan, your
That's
blueprint,
right.
Whatever you say.
It was the blueprint.
We had a guest here a while ago, Judy Wilkins Smith, who is talking about this kind of energy. And she said, a person like you, who comes into a family, who has these experiences, because you're the black sheep of the family, you were parachuted into this family, in my intuition. You didn't, you were there, and you didn't fit in. So her wisdom is that when a person like yourself comes into a family, the influences karmically, spiritually, the lessons go forward to your children, grandchildren, whatever in life, but also it goes backwards.
Yes.
It goes back to your parents, your grandparents, and you influence your so-and-so brothers who gave you such a hard time, or that one anyway.
Yes.
You've taught them, whether you know it or not. You've changed their spirit, if you will.
I'm really glad you brought that up. I learned that. Don't remember where that came in, and maybe it was Judy. But I remembered reading about that somewhere, or hearing someone speak of that you do change it, and you actually do change the past. So if there were, horrible people in your lineage, and you come in, let's say it's racism, and you come in, like for me, I don't even understand that. I never understood it. And one of my brothers married a Black woman, and that went over like really badly in my family. It was bad. And so with my father and my mother to some degree. Well, I came along and nothing was going to move me in that direction. Nothing. I would stand firm in it. I would argue with them. I would say, I don't understand it. Why do you hate so much? Whatever. So just my doing that, you're right. Just by my living that and standing up for people's rights. We all have life rights, is somehow transmuting that ugliness, if I can call it that, of the past.
When light comes into a dark room, I've used this before. If you walk into a dark room, it's full of darkness. You turn on the light switch. Where did the darkness go?
Never was there.
It disappears.
Yes,
so it wasn't. So you've been a light in your family. So let's just before we'll take one more quick break. And how can people find you and find out more about coming to see you or your future career and your books? How can they get a hold of you?
So my website is called spirittherapybymary.com. A title that came through my record reading. I didn't know what to call what I do. So it's spirittherapybymary.com. Oh. And my email is, which you can reach me at, write to me. I answer everybody, adivinerealm@gmail.com. A divine realm @gmail.com. So.
Okay, we'll take a short break and be right back.
Did you know that Dr. Douglas Cottrell has several other weekly channels where you can participate? Check out his Sunday International Spiritual Healing Service on Zoom. And you might also enjoy the Wake Up podcast exploring human consciousness, awareness, and intuition with Dr. Douglas and co-host Les Hubert. Just go to douglasjamescottrell.com and message us on the contact page to add your name to the Zoom links of your choice. Welcome back to the interview. Once again, here is Douglas James Cottrell.
Well, this has been an amazing interview, Mary. You are an exceptional woman. You are an exceptional person. You are a trailblazer. I have some dear friends who have been similar in their career. I have a friend in Spain who was the first woman air traffic controller in the Spanish military. And then when it transferred over control, she was the first woman air traffic controller in the civil aviation. And so similarly, the weight of being the first at anything, but especially in the world as it was, I got to compliment you for sticking it out. You didn't run away. You stayed the course. You're feisty enough and an advocate and a person who's tough and able to take all those times that you went home, I'm sure, with headaches and wondering and people having hurt your feelings, and you've done something wonderful on the screen, and then they criticize you the next minute, they take that away from you, and yet you persevered. That alone should be a reason for people to pay attention to what you have to say. But then the whole world opened up to you in this Akashic, which I'm sure, as I'm finding, it's expanding all the time. Every time I think I've got it, oh, here we go.
Yes, me too.
There's another floor upstairs,
Yes,
Well, tell us where you're going and what can we expect from Mary in the future.
Well, it's interesting because I'm learning more and more to be in the now, right? And I know that the writing, there are many more stories that are in outline form that are coming through me, and I am lucky enough to understand entertainment. I understand behavior, and I understand what audiences want. I have my whole life. I grew up watching old movies when I was little because the chaos in my house was not something I wanted to drown it out. So I just stayed up like sometimes all night watching old movie after old movie. And I realize now what an asset that's been for me because I really understand story. And I also understand and can predict movies that are going to be really good at the box office and are going to win the awards. I have a game I play with myself. And usually, I'd say probably like 90% of the time I predicted it. And so for me, I know I want to keep writing and I want to write stories that really, how you felt when you came out of E.T., the movie. I mean, people cried at E.T. because the separation and all of that, but it was about love. And the movies that stand through time and always will are going to be those kinds of movies, those beautiful movies about relationships and people and love. I never want to come out of the gate with a story going, I'm writing a story about love. The networks would just go, see you later, the studios. But if it's a sci-fi, which is what Steven Spielberg did, most people would say, oh, it's about an alien and this little boy. No, it's about a boy's first experience with love. And the love happens to be with an alien. How beautiful. So those are the stories that are in me that I know will be, some people ask, what's your legacy? I want my legacy to be that, those kinds of stories that withstand time, that move people so much to their own hearts. It's not about it's about, you feel better about yourself when you have those kinds of experiences with story. Books too do that. Memorable books that just still stand the test of time. So there's that. And my records work, I just want more and more people to know about and experience the power of their own Akashic records. That is huge for me. And so I'm, right now it's one-on-one. It's been one-on-one, but I'm being encouraged more and more. I'm doing this with you, which is great. This is really helpful because then people will go, oh, what is that? And they'll either resonate or not, or get a book. Great, get a book on the Akashic Records, because it's such a powerful realm. And it's the existence of life itself and divinity itself. You can't get any better. I mean, that's just how I feel. It's source, and you can't get better than that, right? And so I think what I'll be doing is I'm looking into and outlining ways to reach more groups of people, maybe in workshops where we actually work with the Akashic Records more. And I'm just sort of waiting. I'm just allowing downloads for that. So that's what I'm hoping to do, to be able to speak about it more, show up more, and share about it, and share my experiences about it, write about it, and then maybe reach larger groups of people. It's really those two avenues for me, more and more of that.
Okay, well, I also predict in your future that you'll be writing a movie.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's going to be your life story.
Really? Okay. Well,
you don't, like all people who are pathfinders, way showers, lights coming into the world, what you have gone through in your life has been amazing. But because you've gone through it, it doesn't seem so amazing.
no, it doesn't.
But it is.
Thank you.
You were in this environment, pressure cooker, movies, television, tyrants, big money. You persisted, you continued, you started off through your family, again as a pathfinder and enduring with the arguments, and because you knew as a child what the truth was.
Yes, I did. I came in knowing that.
Yes, love was, this hate has to go away. So
Yeah.
you were in a family that had some hate. You were in an environment in New York or wherever you were.
Yeah, it was New York. Mm-hmm.
And then here you are, so I predict you're going to write a movie about your life, and it will be a best.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
I can see you with the Oscar in your hand.
Oh, wow. You do see that, huh?
Yeah,
Mm.
I wouldn't make that up. I don't flatter people. That's the truth. So anyway, we're at the end of the show. It's been wonderful. Again, my guest is Mary Madeiras, and her website is Mary.
I'm sorry, I'm seeing that Oscar. My website is spirittherapybymary.com.
Okay. And for that little tidbit I just gave you, I'd like to have an invitation to come sit right beside you at the theater. Okay.
That's done. That's a deal. I would love that. I would love that.
Okay.
I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for who you are.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And it's great to have wonderful guests like yourself to help lights illuminate the world to come on our international program. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Everyone, we'll be back next week, next time, with more enlightening people, wonderful guests, and intriguing stories. I'm your friend, Dr. Douglas James Cottrell. You're listening to the Global Village International programs, and we'll see you right here next time. God bless, peace, and prosperity to everyone.
Here on the program, Douglas speaks with fascinating guests who share their experiences and insights. We post new videos frequently, so be sure to check back often to see who's being featured next. For more information about Douglas and the guests, check out the links in the description below. And please make sure to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button so you won't miss a single episode. It also helps boost the signal and spread the word about the show. And feel free to add your comments below. Your feedback, comments, and suggestions are what help us. And thanks for visiting.